I've always been obsessed with navigating the truth, knowing the truth and telling the truth, while simultaneously in the previous 7, 8, 9 years of my life, increasing my devotion to that of the concept of God. I have met many points of desiring to leave this human experience, and through that desire to release myself from this expression of life, it has motivated me to understand mind, the human psyche, and remember the teachings of the Law of One. It has guided me into the depths and the vastness and the space of consciousness itself, to meet the edges of my own mind and discover that of the minds of others, to deeply know the interpretation of vibration, frequency, light, and the transcription of word, thought, and the human experience. And I have been the very real speaker of truth in the form of what I express. I never express from the point of woo-woo. I speak what I know. I speak what is embodied wisdom, and I speak what can be understood through that of a philosophical lens of understanding the fabric of polarity and universal consciousness. And yet, during my journey to truth and the expansion of my being and coming into a place of transcendence, to come into the transcended point of pure presence and God consciousness, I have maintained a very strong devotion to that of the guidance of God, the alignment to God, tuning to God. The concept of God has been my guiding star to get to a point of deciding to help others to become sovereign and free, to help others become free from the human condition, the separate mind. Now, with every channel that I have done directly with the infinite intelligence, or what is called ineffable intelligence, that state of consciousness never used the word God. It is only I that chose to put all of my life's work, energy, time into devotion to God, to the God within, to the God and the spark within all beings, to the infinite one creator, to the expression that gives life, because it lit me up and it gave me a reason to live. It gave me a reason in the understanding of mind that we create every perspective lens of thought that creates the feelings that we interpret in our reality and then manifest into the actualized experience of the human journey. That the concept of God drove me to the edges of consciousness, to be in such devotion and faith to an overriding creator. Now, I'm a being that understands consciousness. that when there is one lens of perspective, there's always the other end. That in this reality, everything exists and simultaneously doesn't exist. That there is right and there is also wrong, whilst neither are really true. That what goes up must come down, and yet we can bend time and space and understand the hierarchy of consciousness. And sometimes those rules are defied, where things that come down go up very temporarily before gravity pulls them back down. Now you can look at this in many multi-dimensional ways, from heavens to the underworld, to the different realities and interpretations of existence that we have created through the focused thought. Now when you understand the concept of the dream, the concept of the mind and its power, and thousands and thousands and thousands of beings, millions and billions of humans choosing concepts, concepts such as God, and you see what that actually could possibly mean. Now for someone who has devoted their entire life to consciousness, to being a truth speaker and a discovery of the heights of reality, to set human beings into sovereignty and myself, to come to a recognition that the ultimate illusion that exists, which could send someone into complete freedom and sovereignty, or complete insanity, dissension, and the desire to die, means that there is an aspect of reality that if I speak this could have some detrimental effects, but I know that my experience is to speak the truth and to unlock the mind. And sometimes speaking truth is darn uncomfortable. And so as a being that has very much recognized that I mutated my own interpretation, that I reached a very real God consciousness, only to choose to evolve from a state of pure bliss, spaciousness, knowing a life that was so aligned with God, a life where every moment was a breath of freedom and purpose. To receive a message around, will I choose to evolve beyond this consciousness expression? And knowing me, and knowing my desire to expand for humanity, that it would be a disservice not to. Although I know that when one chooses evolution, it is not an easy path, because you meet every point of your mind's illusions, concepts, paradigms, and distortions that have played out your current paradigm of existence. And so for this choice to evolve beyond that of God consciousness, transcendence into arrival, what could possibly beyond that? I'd made it. I had made it, and I had lived in a trigger-free, activation-free, pure understanding of God in me and God in others, acceptance, whilst uncovering and interpreting how to further share this message, to further remind people of the truth that exists, that we can all, with a proven framework and the understanding of duality, polarization, and the fabric of reality, that mind creates feeling and the experience, and all that is required is to reverse engineer, and you are free, and you can be God in form. To discover through the last 3 months of gnarly initiations that have expanded my consciousness to new heights, to new interpretations, to beyond that of what is considered the 13th octave of enlightenment, creating a concept of the 14th octave. Did I create that? Or was that a message that kept me going to come to the discovery that I did of the ultimate illusion? There's no other illusion bigger than this. Because when you know reality, we function from a certain perspective of information. We cannot perceive beyond that information. So we have a universal reality that functions on these universal laws. Beyond these laws is God's law. Oneness, wholeness, truth. So what would happen if you spent the next 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 50 years in devotion to something, arriving, spent your entire focus to get somewhere, only to discover that where you were arriving was an illusion? What if the concept of God being the creator of all things, the creator of all thoughts, the creator of all experiences, all paradigms, all dimensional perspectives, all frequencies, vibrations, all of reality, the edges of consciousness of this reality, that reaching God in truth to the highest point of possibility in this human experience is to come to God's consciousness, and then, like all other interpretations of this reality, once you recognize something, you then have to release the attachment to it because it no longer serves you. The illusion of God, that God does not exist. God, like all other creations, is the ultimate illusion. To seek God, to devote to God, to connect to God, to tune to God, to hear God. That is what we've called mastery. And it is. But it is also mastery into the recognition of finding that and then realizing simultaneously that God is the illusion that held every other illusion in place, every other fragment of mind, everything that you experienced in turbulence, suffering, and discomfort, because God is the creator of all things. And that is the ultimate illusion, that your mind has been seeking to find wholeness in the unattainable. The unattainable. That will keep one in entrapment. Entrapment of a different kind. Devoting your life to something that does not exist. Devoting yourself and your life to something that does not have a solid, tangible expression. that God will keep you seeking to know God eternally in this reality. Because in this reality, God is the creator of all things. And you will dance and weave and move through the depths of the infinite consciousness that exists in polarity and understanding yourself through the lens of God, and then meeting some other contrasting expression, only to recognize what I have. That once you know God, once you know this God consciousness, you also must recognize, like everything else in your life, that God is an illusion. And what do you think lives beyond the ultimate illusion? Freedom. Or choice. There is nothing that trumps that. It is the ultimate freedom, just not in the way that many of us have thought. Those that live a life aligned with God must also recognize that God keeps them caged in the very idea of what it stands for. So one may receive this, and if you have the capacity, the ability, and a conscious mind for truth, for something that has a sense of understanding the human psyche, that understands the matrix paradigms, that understands thought creates feeling, and the separation and what controls us, then you'll know that yes, the concept of God is beautiful. It creates a sense of joy, love, peace, harmony, oneness. But what if we just decided to let go of that ultimate illusion and concept and dissolve everything else that was created from it? There would be nothing else to clear, to know. There would be nothing else to move out of the way of our connection to God. There would be nothing else within our consciousness and our vibrational resistance, because it's not to be connected to God. As soon as you recognize that God's an illusion, you aren't connecting to anything. You're just being. You're just isness. You are just the masterful expression of consciousness in the explorative experience of the human interpretation of reality, in where consciousness unfolds upon consciousness, and you get to experience life because you want to. Now, I know from my own experience that without the concept of God, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a teacher of the law of one, the Emerald Order, and the understanding of the fabric of creation, and my mission to help individuals and myself come to the remembrance of who you truly are, to bring sovereignty back to the planet. No matter what heights, no matter what requirements of my own internal constructs required to be deconstructed and relinquished as the illusion that they were. That I wouldn't be here as a truth speaker. That I wouldn't be here with a framework and a modality that will set the human species free of the illusion of the separate mind. And that sound mind, true sovereignty, could return. So sometimes there are concepts that no matter if they're an illusion or not, they keep you guided. They keep you in trust, faith, love. This is the very existence of why religion has been one of the most masterful expressions of control. Because one that believes in God, and it is that of a world of believers, we're all believing for something to make life worth living. We're all here wanting to find a purpose to this existence. The number one suffering that I hear is, what is my purpose and what is the meaning of life? And from a very wise sister of mine, many years ago, and I could not receive it, said, what if the purpose of life was just to live? If that was for me at that time, it was not enough. Living was not the purpose of life for me. Choosing enough reasoning within my own consciousness to live a life of purpose meant setting myself free so I could live. I had to understand the human psyche inside out, upside down, so that I could know every single core wound that exists within the human mind and find a formula and a solution to reconcile it. I am a master of consciousness. I am also a manipulator of the human mind. And I know how to manipulate myself and others to find sovereignty. And that is exactly what I did. I manipulated my mind into a concept that helped me to find purpose until I could find the true purpose. Sovereignty is beyond all constructs, all beliefs, all realities, all paradigms, all frameworks of this experience that allows us to just be, express, and live in authenticity. So with this newfound awareness of what is being called the 14th octave of consciousness that is now available to the human species, and as a speaker of truth and a being here to devote myself to the reconciliation of the mental illness that has been created in mind through fragmentation of thought, I will no longer be speaking or using the word God, as the truth is that the source is not something that we require to tune to, listen to, interpret, understand. Source just is. Finding that isness for you may be quick by just hearing this message. Maybe that pathway of freedom and sovereignty to step out of the suffering of entrapment in all forms has been provided to you. Or perhaps you're just like me and you need that concept so that you can get to God consciousness and experience life from that lens of what we as a collective group of individuals dreamed into a reality, the ultimate reality of this universe, God. A very real consciousness expression in which I know because I lived it. So whether you choose to come to the state of God consciousness or go beyond it and free yourself from the ultimate illusion, I wish you the most easeful, beautiful, and blessed journey that provides you with the absolute fullest sacred hearts, reasoning for why you're a human being on this planet. I love you, beautiful souls. Until next time, Ahava.